Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Testing Peers. Tonight, we've got a special guest who's joining us for the very first time, which we're excited to have with us because we've been trying for a long, 140 odd episodes. Welcome, Veerle. Say hello to the fans.
Hello to the fans.
We have our usual guest, Chris.
Usual hello.
Exciting as always. And another special co-host, Tara.
Hello, hello.
Today's exciting episode is going to be talking about bringing your hobbies to work, but in true Testing Peers fashion. Before we get into our exciting topic, we need to do a little bit of banter. So over to Veerle to tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, it's so bad. I'm already taking the episode completely off the tracks. But so I've been listening to Testing Pairs episodes, and the one thing I noticed was wow, the intro always sounds like you're gonna do a mindfulness journey because it's got the piano and it's got whoever is hosting doing the whole sort of soft spoken welcome to Testing Pairs. And Russell, it's honestly delightful hearing it live. It's just lovely. I'm sorry that my voice is not going to be like that at all because we're going in for the bants and I have got a doozy for you today. Right. So last night I had a really weird dream. I was nothing weird in that way. I was eating blueberries and they were in a wee box that blueberries come in, and one of them was the size of a satsuma. And it's weird because, they're kind of dark blue on the outside and then they're grape colored on the inside. And it ruined the experience for me. I've been thinking about it all day. So I was wondering if you had to say what fruit would be ruined by changing size, and in what way would it be ruined the most for you?
Probably good that you said fruit, because otherwise I was going to be getting really upset about the size of a tiny quiche or something that was going to really frustrate me.
Ah, right. Food in general. No. I would specifically say fruits. Yeah.
I was on holiday last year and we were at a place where you can go and get your buffet breakfast. You can just go and pick fruit and other bits and bobs, which is quite fun to go off to. I tried to collect all the different flavors of yogurt every day to sort of pick those bits up. And they had bananas that were minuscule, and it irritated the life out of me because peeling the banana skin was quite hard when it was such a tiny little thing. But also, it wasn't quite big enough for two mouthfuls, but it was too big for one mouthful. And it was wrong.
I think they were probably pretty average size, Chris, but whatevs.
So all of those award-winning fruits and veggies that are just ridiculously large sized. The watermelon that weighs 50 pounds, the pumpkin that's, as big as a house. I find those so just a waste of space and energy because there's no way they taste good. Right? What are you gonna do with that? They're just so disturbing to me. I don't know why.
That's probably true. Because if you get a huge courgette, it's always really tasteless.
I just think, wow, a lot of energy went into that for no reason. Unless you're really into pumpkin smashing or something.
They look cool though.
Depends on the fruit or veg, I suppose.
Because I was going towards, I really would wish that oranges were smaller.
I think that's called a mandarin.
Yeah, well,
or is
no,
it
no,
called a kumquat?
No. You see, you've got the wrong scale again still, because I'm talking it was grape size.
Kumquat.
I don't know what a kumquat is.
You even eat the skin on a kumquat, and it's really fun to say. If you say it's really fast, quite quickly, it doesn't work.
It might not work in the edit, that's for sure. Okay, then I need to Google and find these kumquats, I think it seems, because that's what I would love. Just berry orange little berries versus orange big fruits that are annoying. Right, let's move away from bants then into hobbies. So bringing your hobbies to work. Who wants to kick us off talking a bit about the hobbies and how you can bring it into work, for example?
Well, I am the one to blame for the topic idea, but it was inspired, listener, by not only myself, I am inspirational, but also by Veerle and Tara, who have both done amazing talks at the conferences with hobbies, things that they do, and learnings that they've brought onto the stage to speak to testers and practitioners alike. I've seen on stage Veerle talking on the testing peer stage, no less, about Vikings and teamwork and how what we can learn in agile teams. I've seen Tara talking about Dungeons and Dragons and the things that we can learn in testing. I spoke, listener, about pro wrestling because I am secretly a small child who gets excited by the big, loud, and
It's not
exciting wrestling
secretly,
scene.
Chris. That is a well-known fact in the testing community.
And you're not small.
I also thought you were going to say you were secretly a pro wrestler, and I was going to get really excited.
Do you know, I was a gymnast as a child, and so I do appreciate the athleticism. But actually, the part I appreciate most in pro wrestling, whilst we're on the topic, who brought that up, is the storytelling, the art of different people, different shapes and sizes. They're there and they're trying to tell a story to entertain people. They're aware of their audience and they will factor in the work that they're doing depending on where they go. There's a great Scottish wrestling promotion that is predominantly loud Scottish men drinking in a pub whilst a bunch of loud Scottish wrestlers come on and wrestle. And yet the most famous wrestler out of that has often been a chap that comes out to Madonna's Like a Prayer, and they all sing along for banter. It's people going for a good time and enjoying putting on a show. And part of the wrestling stuff, if I'm trying to weave it back into the testing space, is this whole idea of storytelling and suspension of disbelief, which is forget a lot of stuff that's going on. Sometimes there's a specific story I'm trying to say. I've got to remove a bunch of noise, and let's face it, in this AI era, there's a lot more noise. Cutting through that and to be able to tell a story, framing it well, having the ability to tell something within the constraints of X period of time, whilst keeping the other person that you're doing your storytelling with safe, so that you both win together. Teamwork, we love it. All of those things to put on a good show and leave the punters feeling better about them, their lives, and their days. That is a fantastic outcome that people don't think of when wrestling is on the cards. But there is a way you can do that.
Well, we're all stunned.
You see testing in everything we do, don't you, Chris?
I was inspired though. Rick Tracy did a soapbox talk at Eurostar Copenhagen, and he talked about testing the city. He said, I could be stood at a pedestrian crossing and I've got a button to press. What can I do? There's testing scenarios I can come up with. Like, how would a blind person test this? How would these sorts of things come? Stuff in my life can be applied into, I can apply testing into that, but also I can learn things from that. Like, because there's a lot of actual complexity and thought that goes into that process. What can I learn from the logic that goes into building that and traffic lights and the signals and all those things? How can I apply that into testing? Is there a metaphor I can lead so I can transport people into something to explain perhaps the complex or abstract theory into something that they can relate to? Because you can say traffic lights in that scenario, different times of day, different traffic flow, the goal is all these sorts of things. How does that work? And he just said that's just from standing at a level crossing, a pedestrian crossing, waiting for those buttons. He said, there's a lot we can glean from these things.
I do think a lot of my experiences have been two-way streets. I pull the storytelling and the teamwork capabilities from Dungeons and Dragons into my DevOps workspace all the time. But I think there are other things that I count on as hobbies. Like, I love to bake and I knit and crochet, and those things have taught me the patience and the attention to detail that I can apply to testing. But testing has also given me this more iterative approach to be a little bit more willing to take risks and to fudge those details a little bit to see what happens.
I'm with you on that one. Actually, testing has helped me immensely take the pressure off myself as a user, because what testing has taught me is if I do this thing wrong on a website, or if I'm placing an order, or if I'm doing whatever, filling out any form, if it doesn't work the way I did it, that is still something they let me, the user, do. And it's actually so much less stressful, because in the past I would be like, I'd have like 6 tabs open to maybe like sort of test different scenarios. Like, what if I click that one, what page will it take me to? And at this point, I'm just like, actually, that's not my problem. That's your problem. You built it. You're letting me use it. And I'm the same way in games, actually, as well, because I recently got into gaming. And in the past, I used to always think like, oh, games are horrible because you have to do the right thing. And, what if you lose? And these days, I'm just like, well, what if you lose? What if you die? It doesn't matter. I'm going to test if I can do this thing. It's honestly, testing has taken the pressure off many things in my life. And it's been quite nice.
I love that. That's awesome. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Y'all, we just have so many hobbies. It's hard to decide which one to talk about.
Well, hobbies are things that you spend your time on that capture your attention, though, right? So it's not just like sometimes it's not a passion. It's something it's a thing that you do. Like I've heard a lot of people. Our friend Shay did a whole talk on lessons learned as a parent that can be applied into testing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think
lessons.
I don't think anyone with small kids thinks that parenting is a hobby.
That's a full-time job for sure. But
I'm and the most stressful one ever.
Talking about your children at work can be a hobby, though, sometimes.
That's true.
That's fair enough.
I will say I'm one of those people, though, that hasn't met a hobby that I haven't wanted to try once. So, like, I sew, I cross stitch, I do basically anything that's a fiber art. I paint. I did ballroom dance for a while. Like, you name it, I've tried it, and I probably learned some life lesson out of it that hopefully, if I'm being smart and truly wise, I've applied to other aspects of my life.
I guess it's a bit unavoidable as well. Like, it's kind of just the way that life happens, right? You pick up something in one area, you tend to apply it to other bits. Like, it's not always instantly obvious how to do that. But I guess, like, especially with things you've been doing for a longer time, eventually those skills kind of seep in.
Makes sense. There's a lot of things that when you do repetitively, you learn another skill that's transferable to other assets to do other things. And testing has a lot of sort of problem-solving skill sets, questioning skill sets, and things like that. So there's a lot of hobbies out there that teach you about, well, the act of learning a hobby is the act of kind of going and exploring, trying to find information about to get better at it, which is a lot of parallels to testing, and you getting a new bit of software or a new feature and trying to then figure out what does it do, what does it do badly, how can I improve it, and all those sort of basic learning sort of loops that you want to do, and a new hobby comes into your way. And hobbies become passions. Not always, to Chris's point, hobbies can just be the activities you do, but often we get absorbed in them. We start focusing on them. We start wanting to be better at them. And I can honestly say in a sad way that that's true of testing for me. Testing is a hobby of mine. Doing this podcast is a hobby. Doing conferences is a hobby. And learning about the subject matter and learning about the whole thing, it's a never-ending cycle. But it's something that's become a hobby. And I think a lot of people, their work, they wouldn't necessarily see it as a hobby, but I certainly perceive a lot of my work to be a kind of a hobby of sorts. Obviously, when I'm getting paid for it, it's no longer a hobby, it's a job then, but I do a lot of it outside of that.
So I guess the question then becomes, would you still test if you didn't get paid for it? Because clearly the podcasts and conferences, you usually don't get paid for those.
Well, my answer is quite simple. Yes. I was a tester before I was a tester, and I'll be a tester long after I'm a tester. I like to figure out how things work. Talking earlier, like my hobbies are around things like engineering, construction, building cars, like putting things together. I went down the route of trying to learn how to build a car to figure out how cars are put together. I wanted to understand how the brake system work, how the suspension systems work. So how do I do it? Go and build one. So I'm always curious, naturally want to know how things work. So I would have always be a tester, and I'll always be trying to figure out how things work, which is kind of the brain I take to testing. How does it work? How can we work better?
That's very similar to, I think, my testing origin story was my parents used to make fun of me for always wanting to take things apart. And so my parents started buying me kits. Like I built my own radio and I built my own phone and things like that, because it was like, please don't break the one in the house. just to see how it works.
One that
Depends
we
what-
actually need.
Absolutely, yeah.
The story for me as a child that when I was about 2 years old, I took my cot apart from the inside out, destroyed it so it fell on top of me, just because I wanted to see how it put together. So yeah.
Oof. That's so interesting though, because I feel like both of your reasons for being in testing and for finding testing interesting is just completely different from mine.
What's
Like,
yours?
Yeah.
um, I'm not particularly bothered about how machines work or what the inner workings of like my motorbike are, as long as it keeps going and as long as it doesn't give me shit while I'm on it. And so I feel like my reasons for being in software testing are largely the same. Like I don't care how it works, it just needs to absolutely work. So I guess I'm more of a, I don't know, like what you call that, like user-centric tester or something, like just sort of, yeah,
It's interesting because I would say it's the same
just
thing.
thinking about flows and is it?
Well, let me explain a little bit because the
All
reason I
right.
want to take things apart is so I can make them better and put them together in a better way, so I can understand it, so that I can improve it, so it can be a better system, a better outcome, so that in effect, on the testing side, you get, if I know how two parts work, I can give better feedback that helps people make the end product better. So it's transferred for me from just simply knowing how it works to, well, if I know how it works, then I can contribute better to actually improving it. But ultimately, the goal in software sense is a better software.
I feel so malicious now because my reason for it is like, how far can I push this and where are the loopholes that I can break stuff?
I get joy from those things. I get joy from finding logic flaws and process flaws, but it's ultimately always with the goal of improving them, fixing them.
Mine wasn't even down that line though. My mum told me, she's like, you were always obsessed with like lists, patterns, logic, order. Like I'm the kid that would go into a ball pit and then sort the colours out together, get all the yellows together, all the reds together, all the
Oh,
blues together. I had toy cars, like little die-cast toy cars, and I put them in queues of all different. I'm the one that would get all the Smarties out and work out how many of each colour of Smartie I had in a packet. Like I liked patterns, I liked numbers, I liked data. Those sorts of things I became sort of obsessed. I had friends at university that called me Stato, which was named after someone from the telly, because I enjoyed data and the stories that you can tell with data, what you can learn from data. I actually dislike a lot of metrics, ironically, but I like data that helps you tell a story, that helps you uncover meaning behind things. I enjoy storytelling, and I find storytelling that's qualified with data really interesting. And I often felt compelled once I got a bit of an oversight on things to sort of try and course correct to have more order. I didn't achieve those things because normally something happened, like my brother, but that's kind of where I came into things. Like I was really obsessed with like order by alphabet, order by age, order by color. I found all that stuff fascinating. And then as a thing, when I struggle to sleep, sometimes I will recall some of that data to help calm me to go back to sleep and stuff. So like I'll be think, let's name every goalkeeper that played in the Premier League in 1992. I'll just like bosh, 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 bosh. And that sort of calm, comforting knowledge will just help me
We
drift off to sleep.
we need to have a conversation outside of this, Chris, I think, to help you in those areas, because some information I've got that might support you in those needs. But I remember Stato heavily from my youth, and I also understand the value of data. I must admit, I've always been wrapped around data and understanding things and stats and probabilities and trying to understand things like that. I think it's
I
interesting.
mean, it's also how I ended up in computer games, right? Because computer games are a thing that are obsessed with data and stats and things that drive you. So like your speed running is a real thing in games. You're trying to get the fastest time, the best, highest points accrued on things. And I spent 7 years working in the games industry. A lot of that again is data and trying to do better. So again, to your continuous improvement point before, Russell, it does sort of coalesce in one way or another.
It's done more altruistically. I think it often is probably the way of doing it. But yeah, it is more because I want to know, I need to know. There is that impulsive thing. But I think we're going away from hobbies more into our personalities now.
But our hobbies shape our personalities and vice
And vice
versa.
versa. Yeah.
And Yeah, and it all trickles in and ties together. I know, I have a degree in mathematics. That was actually a hobby before I decided to study it. I just found random things fascinating, like the way ancient Egyptians did multiplication without having like place value numbers was mind blowing to me. Uh, but that said, like I hate statistics. I hate a dashboard because I know how made up those can be and how skewed they can be if I just run a different set of tests or if I drop one test out of the lot. Like, so they don't tell the story and they don't paint the picture for me as much as going, look, if I click here
They
twice,
can
it's
be
broken.
gamified the hell out of them. Bad metrics do my nutting, but bad stats do. Like I remember when talking about a particular footballer called Olivier Giroud, who you watch him on the pitch. He's the only striker to have played every game in a World Cup to win the World Cup without having a shot on goal. Did that for the France national team. Didn't have a single shot and still managed to win the World Cup. Statistically, he was awful, but he played a part in a team that won. You can tell a story with statistics that make something look awful, but he was crucial in his team to enable them to get on and win a World Cup. That's the way like stats can be used really badly. They can be weaponized in some ways. But it's why I have this post-it note here that says "but why?" because I like to challenge like I'm showing some data. I don't immediately take data verbatim and go, well then that's the reason. Like someone says, I automated 10 tests today. Should you have done?
That's harsh, Chris.
I am a
somebody
harsh
comes to
Chris.
you, somebody comes to you with an achievement, and you just tell them, "But why did you do that?"
Well, is it an achievement though? Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
not it's
that's
not
true.
I can be a kind and empathetic human being at times as well. But like if people wear things as a badge of honor, they're often doing it like not often doing. There are bad actors in our workplace that use data to sort of hide behind things. I've seen threads on Reddit that talk about what can I do to look more productive so I can get on with doing things I'm actually interested in, using data to basically keep management off their back so they can carry on doing things. There's loads of like hacky things and stuff that exist because people are using data. They can point to that and go, I am productive. I worked this many hours. I looked busy.
It's so funny because if those people were actually like, okay, this is going to sound so judgmental. If those people had good managers that took the things that they were passionate about, they wouldn't have to look busy, right? Because they'd be doing the things that they're excited about. One of the things I actually love to ask in interviews is, what do you do outside of work? Like, not a computer, right? When I was working with developers, so often their hobby is developing, and I'm like, okay, but what else do you got?
And there's
What
advice,
else
isn't there,
do
that
you
people
do?
say take hobbies out of your CV when you're applying for jobs. They're like, oh, employers don't want to hear that. I'm like, whenever I've been a hiring manager, I want to know that you have a life outside of your
That's
job. I want to know that
to
you're
me,
passionate about other things. I think
yeah.
I think it's healthy not to have
But
100%
it's
devotion on
it's not
things.
just about having a life. To me, it's about I can almost guess a personality based on what they say, right? If somebody tells me that they've got a fantasy football league that they've been in for 15 years, I'm like, oh, this person really likes stats and numbers because that's what that's about, right? If somebody tells me that they love nothing more than to sit and quilt in the afternoon, I'm like, that is a patient person who loves to plan, right? So you can pluck these little ideas of personality out when somebody tells you their hobby.
You know what? I always find it really difficult when people ask me what my hobbies are because I'm always like, well, it kind of depends. Depends on the season, depends on the day, depends on how I woke up that morning. Like obviously there's always like recurring things, but then some of the things that I do a lot in summer, in winter I'll be like, "Oh, I can't really say that that is my hobby because I've not done that in about half a year." Whereas like currently, because it is well, it's February, I was gonna say it's January, but either way, like this whole time of the year, I just don't really want to do too much. So I just sit in the house. I watch shows on Netflix. I knit a lot. I listen to podcasts, and I go nap. And that's kind of it. But like, I'm not going to tell people that those are my hobbies because it sounds sad. Whereas in like half a year, I'll be doing completely different things. I'll be outside, I'll be on the motorbike, I'll be sailing, I'll be doing whatever. And then I'll be like, well, am I really a knitter? I can't really say that I'm a knitter because I've not knitted anything in like 4 months. So it's like it shouldn't be a difficult question, but as soon as somebody goes like, "What are your hobbies?" I'm like, "Yes, what are hobbies?"
Quite a violent way to be asked the question as well. What are it?
Well, that's what I like to tell people. Yes, hobbies are my hobbies. I haven't found one that I absolutely hated yet. I found ones that I'm not good at and I don't do often. I've found ones that I will do repeatedly. I have found ones that I spent a lot of money on and never touched again. But I love hobbies in general.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? I think we also have to be slightly careful about prejudging on hobbies because, as much as they can suggest certain things, it's discovering more that helps you find out whether that idea is true or not, isn't it? Because you could say that someone who likes to go walking, for example, likes isolation and likes fresh air and likes to kind of be free and wild, but actually they could only go walks on the structured walks with 10 friends every time. The context.
There's a
Always the
disclaimer
context.
for not judging, isn't it? Which is actually a note to, in this instance, it's a note to hiring managers and interviewers, like finding out things about people without withholding judgment and like understanding that sort of stuff. It's interesting.
That's where your sticky note comes in. I love to go walking, but why?
Well, exactly that, and that's the context. You could say football, but actually you hate working in a team and things like that. And it's amazing how often on CVs the hobbies that people list are quite generic type things, simplified. Like I've got hobbies that I haven't done in 10 years on mine still, which is just a bit silly because I couldn't be bothered to update it. But it was a hobby. I mean it to be a hobby. I just haven't got round to doing it recently. And that recently has got longer and longer.
Adulthood sucks.
There's not enough time, is there? But napping is a great one that Veerle put down. Man, I should add that to my CV. That's a healthy practice.
No, the worst thing is that now that we're talking about it, I'm like, actually, I don't nap enough to say it's truly a hobby.
That can always be remedied.
I said like testing takes the pressure off things for me, but then I put it back on. Okay, but so now that we're talking about putting pressure on yourself and adulthood is hard and learning from your hobbies, I've got a nice one to make us all feel a little bit better, I think. So a little over a year ago, I started going to the gym because I was like, I need to start creating a bit of muscle mass. I'm not getting any younger. You know what they say about women is like really healthy for you, apparently, to have a bit of muscle. So I was like, right, cool, I'm going to start lifting. And I did. And the one thing that I noticed was that kind of every week you go back and every week you work your absolute arse off and every week you go home tired. And I'm like, why doesn't it get easier? Like, why am I tired every week? And it's, right, because you put on more weight every week. Like at some point you get stronger and so you up the weight and so you still get tired but you're lifting more. And I kept like a sort of journal. First I used an app and then I started like actually using a journal, and so you put in how much weight you lifted and how many repetitions and like how relatively exhausted you were, and then you have this whole sort of record that shows you actually you got a lot stronger over time. And so it feels equally difficult, but it's because you're doing something that is objectively harder. And then at some point that just suddenly hit me because I was like, oh, I feel like I've been a really rubbish tester for about 7 to 8 years, and I don't feel like I got any better at it. And then at some point I realized, what if I just kept raising the bar and I started doing things that were more difficult?
Keep changing the target, or keep changing what good is, so to speak.
And my mind was blown a little bit.
I really like that. I think a lot of times I don't feel like I've moved very much in my skills and my career, but then I will look back on some automation that I wrote, 10 years ago and go, oh yeah, no, I've changed. We're actually good because this was horrible and I don't know what I was thinking.
That leads very well into kind of recording what you're doing, what your strengths are, what you're good at, those sorts of information, like bringing hobbies, journaling, and all the rest of it is a fantastic way of seeing progress. I remember, I don't think any of us would say that when we started out in testing, we knew half of what we know now, but now we do. So we should feel we've grown. Have we grown as fast as others? Have we? There's all sorts of different complexities as the technology changes. We have to grow with the technology changes. So we're constantly learning. So you never feel done, which therefore means you never feel like the expert because there's always someone who knows more than you. There's always another book to read. There's always another peer to blow your mind, and all those sorts of things keeps going. So you end up in a constant journey of learning, which means you never feel like, you know, we haven't gotten the Olympics. We're not going to get a gold medal. We don't have a pinnacle. Our pinnacle is a constant moving point of technology, ideas, skills, knowledge, same as many, many hobbies. Because you're always trying to get better at it, but you're never happy because you're never, if it's a hobby, you're not going to be the top of the top. You're just enjoying it, usually.
I think something to add to that is that I think you end up knowing different things later on in your career. So I was recently thinking about like, oh, the stuff that I learned when I sort of had to like study to be a tester, and you had to go through like all of these like this ISTQB stuff and all that. You had to learn about all of these testing techniques. And so I was thinking about that recently. I was like, I don't think I remember half of what I learned at the time. But then I kind of realized when I went through some of it, I was like, oh, actually, I do still know all of this. I just don't think about it anymore. So, like, you kind of just apply it more or less intuitively. But at some point, it kind of starts feeling like, oh, I must be a fraud because I'm doing this thing and I don't know what it's called or why I know it. And it kind of just makes you feel like you're not very good at what you do. And at the same time, it's actually like, no. If you were a beginner, you would be really invested in like knowing what technique this is. But at this point, you've done it so often, like you don't really like when you're in the car, you've been driving for a long time, you don't really look at what gear you're in because you kind of feel it intuitively. So you don't really have to keep the count as much.
It's become second nature.
Yeah.
Lots of it's like picking up a board game, isn't it? Like sometimes that first time you look at the game, you're like, it's just this. I mean, we played Jumanji the other week. That game made no sense when I read the instructions, but the minute we started playing it, we're like, oh, it makes perfect sense.
Wait, is that
Um,
actually a game now?
it's an actual board game, yeah. We didn't have rhinos smash through the walls, but that sort of thing is true, and actually, it's actually there's a lot of instinct involved in these things and learned behaviors and routines and things. Much as engaging your brain to get stuff done helps you be better, like a muscle to your gym analogy. And I think if I dare bring AI into the conversation, the biggest threat that we have in our lives as technical testery type people is disengaging that part of our brain, that muscle, that thing, that curiosity, and handing it over to the LLM gods. But there is the opportunity, therefore, to actually go, you do this crap over here whilst I'll do that, and work smarter, not harder. Still working, still being me, still being curious. Like, I got better at the guitar. I'm not great at the guitar, but it sounds okay because I learned how to play chords that I could play without having to look at my left hand when I was playing. And then it flowed better, and I understood the song that I was doing, and I did those sorts of things. I couldn't do everything like Robert Plant or other people like that because, frankly, I'm not that human and I can't do that sort of thing. But I was able to do something that was satisfactory to me and learn and enjoy and embrace those things. And the same was true of when I was a budding gymnast. There were particular things that I could not do, so I wasn't going to enter those in a competition. But I got better, and I was able to transition towards doing certain things that I wouldn't have been able to do week one because you learn, you set goals, you achieve things, and you have a particular goal for where you want to head in life and things you want to achieve. But my words of 2026 are really decisive humility, and the way that we operate in the workplace is very much around the lines. I don't know this, but I want to know, or I can find out where it is. But it's owning that stuff, because I'm deeply angered every time I use a chatbot or a prompty friend that acts like everything is perfect and wonderful and I can complete everything. And I'm like, just directly tell me if you don't know something. We're going to achieve so much more if you don't make stuff up or leave me to the point where I presume everything's fine. And this is true when we're working as a team and everything, right?
Is that what you call them? Prompty friends?
I was saying new term unlocked.
Because there's lots of promptiness going on, and prompty friends is just what I've decided to call them today.
I love it.
Nice. All right.
It's now part of my vernacular. I was going to ask you a question, and I think it applies to both like gym things and baking and all of those things. Eventually, there's a point, I think, with any skill that you get where you kind of become so familiar with it that you kind of start to make stuff up, right? Right. As you were talking about board games, I was thinking about this game that my family and I play every holiday. It's a card game. It's a version of like Rummy, basically. But our family has played it so long for generations that we kind of have like our house rules.
I love that.
And so introducing people to this game is a nightmare because we have to explain it to them every time. But do you think that you do that in your day-to-day work where you're like, I'm just going to try this, and if it works, we'll make it part of the routine, and if it doesn't, we'll pretend like it didn't exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes some things stick because people really like it, and some other things you try your absolute darndest to get your team to adopt it, like I did for a while with example mapping, and people were just not having it. Yeah, and then sometimes you introduce a silly little thing like, hey, why don't we have like a 5-minute coffee call before the daily so that we can sort of like chat amongst ourselves? And people are like, yeah,
And
that's
it's
amazing. Let's
adopted
do
in a
it.
heartbeat.
And yeah. And I was like, people
I
are
love
never
that.
going to enjoy that because my team is not that social. And turns out, actually, they are.
And that has a lot of parallels to hobbies and especially sports, because there's techniques, there's ideas, there's things that you experiment. Some things will work with that person, some things won't work with that person. Like be it golf, be it tennis, be it gym, your body is unique. So the way in which you can do something, there's the best technique, but Roger Federer uses, for example. But not every single tennis player plays exactly the same strokes. They have quirks, they adapt them, they mold them to the thing. And with all these hobbies that we take towards our workplace, a lot of what we do is we learn, we adapt, we're asking our peers, our friends, the community, the internet, you name it, ChatGPT or other things for ideas, and then we're trying to attempt them where we are, or do what we do. So it's all about bringing that sort of learning culture, that idea of trying to improve in your hobby, that idea of just getting that tiny bit better, that extra bit of strength, that 1 kilogram extra weight, just to kind of iteratively improve yourselves, is literally identical to what we do within sort of our workplace and all the rest of it. We don't always notice it, to Veerle's point earlier. We often forget the transitions, the experiments, the failures, successes, and we just see that we're still doing weightlifting. We don't see that we're actually have evolved or improved or tried a new routine to do something, or our recovery times got better, and all those other parallels. But it's about that learning culture, that adaptation to different things, and seeking from other hobbyists, other people with that skill, ideas. It's great parallels, I think. It's wonderful. Love this topic now. It's taken me a long time, but I get there in the end.
Finally got
And that's
there.
a good time to end the episode, friends. It really is. How ironic. Well done, Russell, for getting there. We appreciate you. Thank you to Veerle, Tara, Russell for coming on to today's episode. Thank you very much. And if you are listening to this ahead of 12th of March 2026, listener, then I hope you have visited testingpeerscon.com, purchased your ticket for only £30, and you will see us in Nottingham. All of us in real life. We're actual real humans. Come and see us. Come and speak to us. And enjoy the Testing Peers Conference, our third version. Who'd have thought that'd happen? We'd love to see you. And otherwise, we would love to see you next time. But if you do want to speak to us before then, contact us at testingpeers.com or see us on LinkedIn. Cheerio, friends.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.